At the last church in Palo Pinto, I completely forgot one of the illustrations, and it reminded me of a story as we were driving back that an old preacher in our conference, our group of churches, would tell all of us new preachers coming up. In fact, he interviewed me for ordination one year, and good old Conley Duggar, he came down, and I was nervous about a sermon he'd watched of mine, and Conley told me, he said, Eric, you never tell the congregation you forgot to tell them something. They'll never know. You just keep preaching. You just smile and shake people's hands. And I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Duggar, yes, sir. For those of you who don't know, Conley Duggar was the pastor of First Methodist back in the 70s and the 80s for a very long time, 13 years, if I remember right. And I felt bad because I completely forgot, and this is the point of the title of the sermon. So we got done at Palo Pinto a little bit ago, and someone came down and said, that's a great sermon, Pastor, but what about the title? Well, why is it called So? I didn't get that. And I had to stop, and I thought of that story from Conley immediately, because I was like, man, Conley is so wrong. They did notice I forgot to say something. I'm going to call him up this week and be like, you're wrong. I don't think he'll take that very well. Anyway, but the title of the story, and it goes with our sermon series, How to Read the Bible. We're going to take the whole month of February and talk about how to read the Bible. And the acronym SOAP actually stands for a simple process: Scripture, Observation, Application, Prayer, a method to reading the Bible. But we have to take time and actually think about this, because one of the things I've realized as a pastor, not just here, but in the 5 or 6 other churches I've been assigned to, is that people in our culture don't have a lot of knowledge about the Bible. And we all assume they do. You'll go out and you'll hear people talk about the Good Samaritan out in public, and everyone, they speak it and they say it, and they assume everyone around them understands the reference, but then they don't. Or they'll talk about how difficult it was for them to part the sea, and you are met with a bunch of blank stares because the people around you don't understand you're referencing Moses and him parting the Red Sea and walking across on dry land. And we drop these little references in our culture, in our vocabulary, in our day-to-day lives, and if you really stop and think about it, less and less people understand what you mean when you say that. Oh, that's like turning water to wine. What is turning water to wine? And so we're going to spend the next month looking at a simple process for studying the Bible and how to study the Bible. But beyond that, the other thing that really impacts me is the folks that do know something or have biblical literacy. A lot of folks approach the Bible like it's a textbook. Or they approach it and they read it like it's a newspaper or another post on Facebook, or it's a technical manual of some sort. Well, let me look up here on page 300, part 2a, I'll figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life here. It says I'm supposed to love God. Now in part 2b, that's loving neighbors. Okay, we can do those 2 things and we'll get on with life. And we lose sight of what the Scripture really is. Scripture is like living and breathing. It's something that is foundational both in how we live our lives, but it's foundational in our identity as people who follow Christ. This is not just a book we read and we memorize, but it's something that informs and very much fills us. Or it should. In fact, I think a lot of people tend to boil reading Scripture down to the fact that there's some interesting bits here and there, and there's big stretches of boring stuff. I went to seminary. I spent years studying it. I can tell you, we finished Leviticus, and I was never more happy in my whole life in one of my classes, and then we came to Deuteronomy. Hey, let's give you the whole law in Leviticus, and just in case you missed it, we're going to give it to you again in Deuteronomy. I hope you like reading legal code, because it's fun. And so I understand there are vastly boring parts of the Bible. You read the genealogies, and there's always one guy in some class that really gets into those. He's super passionate about them. He loves them. So-and-so, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. And the rest of us are like, oh, can we just move on to something that's more interesting than who was related to who was related to who? And a lot of us approach Scripture like it's a textbook, or like it's a Facebook post, or like it's the manual to our car. Because we don't have an experience of approaching text in any other way. But I want to invite you to understand that as we talk about studying Scripture this month, that the Scripture at a very deep level is something more than any of those texts. It's something that's living and breathing, as I've said. And Paul begins to emphasize this to the church at Rome. He's writing to the church at Rome, and they're discussing some things. And I want you to understand the context. He's writing to the church at Rome, and this is a church that has the Old Testament, and that's it. There is no New Testament. There are no Gospels for them to read. There are no letters for them to read. They don't know what Revelation is. This is a church that has nothing but the Old Testament. And they're trying to figure out what to do with it and how to live their lives. And Paul makes a grand point about this. He's in a bigger argument at the start of chapter 15, but then he begins to veer towards this argument that, yes, this Old Testament stuff, these prophets, this creation story, yes, even Leviticus and Deuteronomy are important. You can find that in verse 4. He says, whatever was written in the past was written for our instruction, so that we could have hope through endurance and through the encouragement of the Scriptures. Now that doesn't seem like an extremely hard concept to grasp. What was written in the past was written for our encouragement, to give us hope and endurance. But it can be earth-shattering when we really apply it. But it can change how we read what we read in the Scripture. You know, you can go back through and you can read Psalms and see how flowery the language is. I'm not an extremely flowery language person. But you can hear how David crafted great praises to God in Psalms. And it just seems flowery and for me a little over the top and touchy-feely and emotional. And you can, like I do sometimes, come away wondering, well, what's the point of this? How does this relate to me and to my life? And then you get to the Gospels, and you see when Jesus is on the cross, that reference to Psalm 22. The soldiers took down his clothes, dividing them among themselves and casting lots for what was left. The description in Matthew, in his gospel, of what the soldiers did around the feet of Jesus is actually almost a word-for-word quote from Psalm 22. Paul wasn't joking when he said what was written in the past was set for us. And part of our problem, though, is how we approach a text. Like I've said, we approach it in all these different ways, like we would read text today, and we fail to approach it with the two biggest values we have to see. If this stuff is really written for us, to encourage us, to give us hope, it's really written then as a foundation for us to build our faith on. You know, when I was a few churches ago, we bought a new car, and you've seen my little silver car. It's a little electric car, and after service, I'd love to tell you about my little electric car, because I'm passionate about it. I love it. But we drove all the way from whatever church we were in Fort Worth to Weatherford, out to Jerry's car lot to buy it, and I went to test drive it, and it was one of the first cars with a little key fob, so there was no physical key, just a little puck, if you will, and you stand near the car and you can unlock it. which was a whole other story in and of itself, trying to get in the darn car. And we get in, and it's me and this young sales rep, who's actually probably about my age, and him and I can't figure out how to turn the darn thing on. So we're sitting there, we're pushing buttons, we're flicking switches, we're messing with stuff, and we can't figure it out. And that's about the time, if my wife was there or here today, she'd say, well, why don't you look it up and read the manual? But then she wasn't there, and his significant other wasn't there, so we just continued to push stuff and switch stuff and flick things. Finally, after a very long time, an embarrassingly long time, one of us broke down and got her phone out and looked it up. I'm not going to tell you which one that ruined it. One of us pulled the phone out and looked it up and said, oh, you're going to push the brake in and hit the start button, but it's overhidden here. And then you got to take a little puck shifter thing and move it back instead of forwards, and now you can go. There's so many times in life where we have so many ridiculously complicated or confusing, moral, ethical, just life situations that happen. And how much easier would it be if we would just listen to that still small voice that says, why don't you look this up? God wants the scriptures to be that foundational piece in our life that helps us build a solid, fruitful life on. We have to take that scripture and build something on it. It has to be what holds us up when life is hard, what empowers us when we feel weak. It has to be what gives us meaning and vitality. When we feel lost and adrift in this world, we come back to the scripture again and again as people who are in need. And again, the word of God fills us. And it's not just a technical filling. It's not just a simple cursory reading of, oh, now I know how to start this car so I can actually test drive it. No, the instruction we receive is something that is immensely humbling, as it should be for us. Because we are approaching the very Word of God. This Bible that we read isn't just a fancy collection of bloggers and YouTube comments and stories we see on the internet. It's not the best editorial piece in a newspaper or a good book that we curl up with. This is writing from hundreds of authors who were guided by the very Spirit of God to write these things down, not for their own benefit, but for ours. And as they write these things down, we should approach that very Word of God with that sense of humility it demands, realizing God's given us this great foundation to build our life on. I don't think it's a mistake or happenstance that when John wrote down his gospel, he defined Jesus not as the Christ in the beginning. He didn't define him as the Messiah or the Anointed One or the Savior at the beginning. But if you turn to John 1:1, he defines Christ as what? The Word. John 1:1, the Word of God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the beginning was the Word. We have to approach the Word of God and the foundation it gives us with such a sense of humility that God will speak to us even as Himself in Christ. But then the second part is we have to approach it with the reality that it is part of our story. It's who we are. I think it's extremely powerful that what we do today isn't just a bunch of people gathering in a room and worshiping because we kind of feel like it, or because our group's here, or because we got to sell some casserole, or because you get a paycheck for doing it. But what we do here is a continuation of a movement that started with Christ and even before Him in the temple. What we do is a continuation of a movement of the Spirit and creation It is detailed when you read about Adam and Eve in the garden. That story of God is lifted up at the Tower of Babel or on the ark. That story of God is made plain and clear as the sea parts and Aaron and Moses lead the people forward. That story is told again and again and again and again and again with the judges, because the nation of Israel just couldn't get it the first 5 times. It's told through the prophets as they declare God's word. It's told through the apostles as Christ rises them up out of the people to spread his word. It's told through Paul as he writes his letters. It's a story that's still being told. A story that's both being written and is already completed in Revelation. And as we approach Scripture, it's a story that's part of our identity. Two really impactful things about that reality. The first is I was the pastor of a contemporary worship service at my last appointment. And it was as contemporary as you can get. We had the stage, the band, the very, very well-compensated band. We had the dark lights and the lasers. 100 and some of us met in a gym. We had the pallet wood everywhere, because that's the hip cool thing at the time. You know, the most modern music, and we were always buying new music, new equipment, new things. But one of the biggest tensions we had among our staff in that service was there was always a push for some people to get rid of all of the tradition, get rid of everything that's come before. Let's start with a clean slate in worship here, and let's build something brand new. And part of that is very tempting. I get it. You know, I've owned a home. If you've ever owned a home, there's a point when it's so beaten up and nasty and broken, you just want to sell it and go buy a new one. Let's knock it down and start from scratch. Or with a car. There's a point where your car is so old and broken and has so many miles, you want to push it into the dealership parking lot and let him give you a couple $100 for it and drive away with a shiny new car. I get it. I understand. But in wiping all that away, you lose some part of your identity. It's who you are. And that's what Paul is writing about here in the 15th chapter, as he pivots from talking about weakness and power to talking about the place of the Old Testament in the life of the church at Rome. He makes the point that this stuff was written for you. It's part of who you are. And the faction in the church at Rome that wanted to throw out all of the Old Testament and start with something new was missing the point that this is who they were. You know, they might not like reading Deuteronomy. I know very few people that do, but it's part of who you are. It's part of your identity. You know, if you go and you look in my office, push all the stacks of unfiled papers aside, and whatever project that's taking up residence on the chairs in front of my desk, you'll see about to the left of my desk is a little piece of paper that I got when I was ordained. And it's a list of names. And the very top is my name. And then below that is the bishop's name. And then the bishop who ordained him, and the bishop who ordained him, the bishop who ordained him, all the way back down to Francis Asbury. Which, if you're really hip and up on your church history, that's the first bishop of the Methodist Church in America, who was ordained by John Wesley, who was an Anglican priest. We call them Episcopals here. And it's always humbling to look at that and realize, you know, I don't know Bishop Ainsworth in the late 1800s. I'll never meet him this side of the grave. I don't know what he did or who he was. But he laid hands on someone that laid hands on someone that laid hands on me. And it's part of my identity, who I am. We look at the tradition of the church, and more importantly for Paul, we look at the tradition that the Scripture has left us, and we have to approach it with the humility that it deserves because it's the foundation God's given us, but we also have to approach it as part of our identity. We can't let it go because it informs us and reminds us of who we are, who we've been. And God willing, it helps us see where we're going. So I invite you this month as we go on this journey, we're going to take the next few weeks and we're going to talk about how to study the Bible. And I invite you to come along as we talk about how we read the text, a text that's so ancient, a text that can be so new, a text that helps build our foundation, but a text that also informs us who we are. But most of all, I hope it helps give you hope. Because like Paul said, everything that was written in the past was written to encourage us and give us hope for endurance, that we might continue to be the light that God needs in this world. I invite you to pray with me. Holy God, we invite you this morning to come now among us. Remind us that your scripture is something powerful, a foundation to build our life on. Remind us that your scripture is something amazing and a part of our very own identity. But above all else, God, remind us that your scripture is the story of your life, which has unfolded and is unfolding in our own lives. We pray this in your Son's holy name.